Hey, my name is Hirsch. I'm a fourth year med student at the University of Miami, and today I'm going to talk about why you need to shadow a doctor in high school. And so, in this video, we'll go into three main things. The first one is why getting into medical school actually starts with shadowing in high school. Two, I'll do a rapid fire frequently asked questions. I get these questions asked all the time, and so these are some of the biggest ones and exactly what they look like. So, how old do you have to be? Different types of shadowing. Is it better to shadow a neurosurgeon versus a family doctor? Um, a lot of people try doing cold emailing and cold calling in order to get into research, and I'll explain why it doesn't work. And then lastly, I'll finish with step by step how to instructions on actually how to get into shadowing, even if you have zero connections. So, just for some quick background, I'm a fourth year med student at the University of Miami. I have done pretty well in med school, and on top of that, I was actually able to start a nonprofit, which actually ended up getting a $495,000 grant from the Centers of Medicaid and Medicaid Services. I actually had a chance to meet the Surgeon General because of a lot of my work, and so uh, I say this not to brag, just purely to show that whenever I talk about this stuff, I truly do know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that give advice on these things and they don't know anything about what it actually looks like. And so, as a medical student, I feel like I can bring some true, um, true value to this conversation. So, the goal of shadowing in high school, first thing, I want to make it very clear. It has nothing to do with understanding medicine better. There are first year medical students that, whenever they're shadowing, still have no idea what's happening. But it is about seeing what the day to day of a doctor looks like. So, if you are thinking about becoming a doctor one day, it's not all about just changing people's lives and saving them from death. It's the different interactions you have with others. It's the different conversations you have with families, their parents, and how you actually work together on a team is actually a massive part of this. And so being there and being able to say it, see it makes a big difference. Other thing is it can save you a lot of time when you get to college. In college, the first couple classes that you take are extremely difficult, and their whole goal is to actually figure out who wants to be a doctor and who just thought that they did. And so if you have a really strong why, it makes a massive difference when you get to college. It also builds fantastic connections within medicine because doctors know so many people. And so if you can start shadowing, you can actually start unlocking a lot of connections that you would have never had. And then these people become your mentors in the future. They write your letters of recommendation. And then lastly, this is one of the best parts. Shadowing is fantastic for essays and you can use it for seeds of opportunities. And so when I say seeds of opportunities, I say this in the sense that a lot of people don't know this, but a great college applicant, a great medical school applicant is someone that has a beautiful journey. It's not that they just magically woke up and they knew they wanted to do medicine and now they're the smartest and this is going to be the best applicant. No, it's about someone that maybe they shadowed someone and they saw a patient with a type of diabetes and they're like, oh, I always hear about diabetes, but I didn't really understand what impacted on patients' lives until we saw this patient that had neuropathy. So they were having trouble with falls because they couldn't feel their feet. They were having diabetic retinopathy because the diabetes was actually affecting their blood vessels. And so now they were having trouble seeing. And this caused me to actually explore this further by checking out not only just information on diabetes, but also different organizations in the community that were doing work. And then because of that, I actually started giving talks at the local library, which started out with 3, 4 people, but now has up to 50, 60 people that come every month for these talks. And so it's this beautiful journey. And so shadowing can actually be one of these perfect seeds for you to start all of this. So I say all of this just because if you want to become a doctor, you need to shadow in high school. It makes such a difference. It gets you so far ahead of all of your other peers, but also it gives you the ability to actually step up and build on top of that in the future. So everything you need to know, the FAQs, right? So how old do you have to be? A lot of people will try to tell you an age. The truth is, there's no real age. If a doctor is willing to take you under their wing, you can start at any age. Now, is 10 years old too young? Probably, right? But I think once someone is in high school, like 14, 15, 16, like that is the perfect time to actually start seeing what this looks like because now whenever you're in that setting, you can actually interpret what's happening. You can see, you can actually comprehend different people's emotions and the role a lot of this has. Two, What are the different types of shadowing? So the way I think of this is you have clinical. So someone comes into a doctor's office, like a pediatrician's office or internal medicine or even neurology, cardiology. And a lot of the work will be examining the patient with their own hands and then asking a bunch of questions, trying to understand what's going on, and then going from there. So that's the clinical side. Then there's procedural side. So these are doctors that let's take a dermatologist, right? So you see a mole and you're like, I'm not sure if this is completely benign or if this is malignant. And so maybe they'll be the one that biopsy it. And so looking at the procedural doctors, they're a little more hands-on and you can actually see those procedures, and sometimes they may even let you participate in them. And then surgical, so neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery. There are a bunch of surgical specialties where you'll actually go into the operating room with them, and then they'll do a surgery on a patient, and a lot of times they'll talk you through what they're doing. And so they're very different experiences because the conversations you have at each level, the things that you're doing are very, very different. And so these are the three types. And then the question I always get asked is, are particular types better than others? And I can guarantee you there is zero difference in your application or just in your own life if you shadow a neurosurgeon or a pediatrician. In terms of your application, it's really about the interpretation of your experience. What did you see? What did you learn? How did it make you feel? Were you more motivated afterwards? Were there particular parts of it that just drew you in that ever since that's all you've been trying to do in your free time? So this is really, really important. There is no difference, and actually, no one is going to be like, oh, yes, this person shadowed a neurosurgeon. He is a much better applicant than someone else. Next question, what do you do when you shadow? So a lot of times whenever you're shadowing, your goal is to try to take in as much information as possible. So I love taking notes. I'll bring like a mini notebook and I'll just be jotting down. If a patient says a medication, doctor says a weird condition, if even the nurse says just some maybe pharmaceutical company, I'll jot it down. And then by jotting this down, it gives me a couple of opportunities. One, I can ask intelligent questions. I can be like, oh, and when you ask your questions is super important, right? You don't want to interrupt the doctor and the patient as they're talking to ask your silly question. But if you can, in between patients, be like, hey, I know during that last visit, you guys were talking about this one condition. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? It changes the whole dynamic. They view you as a very mature person that knows when it's the right time to talk and when it's not. Other thing it lets you do is it lets you read at home both after and before, because now you have all these different things you can look into. So whenever you go in next time, you can be like, hey, I know last time one of the patients was talking about this. I looked into it and now I have this question. Do you mind if we talk through it a little bit? Other thing you can do is sometimes you can help the doctor by providing an extra hand if they're doing a procedure. Sometimes you can help actually turn over the room, which is basically change some of the bedding, change some of the pillows, maybe wipe down the corners. And a lot of these small things make a massive difference because it shows that you're engaged, right? It shows that you care. It's much better than if you just show there, you're yawning, you're on your phone, versus if you're actually engaged. And then this is the most important one. I think you want to really observe the relationship between the doctor and the patient. A lot of this is nonverbal, and that's why a lot of online shadowing just doesn't have the same impact as whenever you're there, you're a part of it. You can feel a conversation get more tense. You can feel nervousness in a patient before they ask a question because they don't know what the doctor is going to say. And then this is a big one. Why doesn't emailing and calling typically work for shadowing? So the reason is doctors are constantly being asked for things. And so whenever you email them, they have these massive filters so that they never even see all of these requests. Or if you call them, you'll always talk to the front desk person, and it's likely that the front desk person doesn't want to interrupt the doctor with a small request. But if they like you, they'll move mountains for you. And this is why the best way to get shadowing is to actually go to an office with 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 doctors and just ask in person. I know it sounds super scary, but I'll explain kind of a step-by-step process to do this right now. So the first thing you want to do whenever you're trying to get into shadowing is you want to identify doctors. And so anytime you know people in medicine, it makes a difference. But I'm going to go through a way to do this even if you have zero connections. So first you want to make a list of your doctors. Do you have glasses? So Do you have an ophthalmologist you can ask? Do you still have a pediatrician? Um, Write these people down. Then your parents are doctors. Your parents oftentimes have medical conditions. You have family that has medical conditions, so they also have doctors. So you can ask them who their doctors are and you kind of jot it down. Then your family friends as doctors. So do you have family friends that have doctors? And then people who you know that work in a doctor's office. So maybe it's your mom's best friend works in a doctor's office. And you want to just kind of make this list. And then to add onto the list, you want to just go to Google and just search different doctors' offices. A lot of times, orthopedic groups there or a neurosurgical group, they have these groups where you have a lot of doctors that work at the same office. And so you want to kind of make a list of all of these, and you don't even need that many because the truth is, if you go in person, it just changes everything. But let's say you make this list. Next thing you want to do is you want to analyze the links. So one link is you to your pediatrician. It's a direct link. There's no one in between you guys. You talk to them directly. Links for some, maybe your mom's friends, um, either partner or maybe they work in a cardiologist's office. Now you have 3 links. You have 1, 2, 3 links. And so the reason links matter, in my opinion, is that the closer your connection with them is, the more they're invested in you. So if you're at your pediatrician's office and say, hey, like, it's been so incredible working being your patient for all of these years. I've learned so much from you. I actually am motivated to become a doctor. I don't really have that many more connections in the field. Is there any chance I can shadow you? And you say that to your pediatrician, they will be so happy to have you join them. And so I want you to know, the less links, the stronger the connection. And that's why sometimes if you just search online and you show up to the office and you ask, it makes a massive difference. And so that's what I'm saying. Step 3 is just go there and you want to ask. And they're incredibly kind, particularly students. The whole process of medical school is all about helping people below you and even sometimes helping people above you. And so a lot of times doctors, whenever they're not working in a big hospital setting, they actually kind of miss having students around because they enjoy the teaching aspect. They just don't have that opportunity because there aren't students. And so if you as a high school student go and you tell them that you want to join them, it is incredibly hard for them to look at you and say no. And then you really want to maximize the opportunity that shadowing brings, because once you're in the door, you can do so much more. You can tap into their whole network. One doctor probably knows 100+ doctors, no matter how small the city is. Maybe they know people from medical school, maybe they know people locally. They know so many doctors. And so you want to tap into that network because that network will create so many more opportunities for you in the future. You also may be able to join them for research projects. A lot of times research projects, so the organization that I started called Research Skills, we talk about research because research is by far the best extracurricular activity a high school student can do. And so we actually teach step by step kind of how to get involved with research projects, all the benefits, all of that. But if you shadow a doctor, it is so easy to ask them for research projects. When you're already with them, they already see how engaged you are. It makes a massive difference. Then creating community health projects. This is kind of what I was outlining earlier with the diabetes one. You know, you have a patient, it really moves you, you're motivated, you reach out to local organizations to learn more. Now, all of a sudden, you have turned this disadvantage of, oh, I don't have any connections to medicine, as this young person that's super interested, super motivated, and now people want to help you. And so at that point, you can create so many community health projects, and these create for the best applicants for whenever you get to actual undergrad apps, whenever you get to med school apps. Then get strong letters of recommendation. This is so powerful because letters of recommendation are everything. And so if you can have a doctor write your letter of recommendation for your direct medicine program, it makes such a big difference. And like I was saying, it's a beautiful application essay. If you can talk about how this experience of watching a doctor deliver a cancer diagnosis and how that moved you and the impact you can have as an oncologist, that would be so beautiful. And there's so much more. And so I think that if you are interested in doing shadowing, and you want to also learn kind of the exact script you need to have whenever you show up at the doctor's office because you're scared that you fumble, I if you want to actually know how you can practice that conversation, if you want to know exactly what you should wear whenever you start shadowing and whenever you show up, the questions that you can ask, how you could actually get them to willingly connect you to all of their doctor friends in the area, brainstorm different community health projects, how to actually write the college essays, connect your shadowing experience to research projects, and then even get a head start for clinical experiences for your college and med school applications. I'm actually working on creating a shadowing course. I think there's just too many things that I would like to teach. And in the past, I used to do one-on-one tutoring of this stuff, and it would take 5 hours. And just because I'm a medical student, a lot of my time is very limited, and so I have to charge a good bit for it. But I'm trying to make a course that's very affordable for everyone. And so if you want to sign up for that, the link to the early bird just wait list, if you can sign up for that, then I'll make sure to send you an email whenever it's ready. You don't have to pay anything in order to sign up right now. But I wanted to make this video for you guys just so that you have everything you need in order to get started with shadowing. And then if you actually want to learn all of these like very specific things, that'll make your experience so much better and help you actually elevate your application so you can get into a top pre-med school or get into a direct program. Let me know and sign up on that the shadowing wait list. I think it'll make a massive difference. Thank you so much. Bye bye.